Hello, SpongicX here with more custom stage footage from Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And here we have a stage based off of Pac-Man. I know a lot of people are ticked off that the original Pac-Man maze from the 3DS version did not make an appearance in this game. For some reason, Pac-Land gets a lot of hate. I always kind of like that stage, but what I don't get, though, is when people try calling Pac-Land a boring stage, yet say the Pac-Maze looks amazing. Now, for me personally, I thought it was the other way around. Yes, the Pac-Maze is more iconic, but honestly, as a Super Smash Bros. Stage, it really didn't stand out to me. I thought it was a very simple stage. I mean, it was basically just the maze in the background with a few platforms here and there and a few ghosts and pellets popping up, but other than that, it just felt very boring. Now, Pac-Land, on the other hand, that was a stage where a lot was happening. I mean, the art style was different, and, you know, I like how when it loops over, it changes the variant of the appearance a bit. Like, the first cycle, it's like a day cycle. The second cycle, it's more of like a sunset cycle, and I personally like Pac-Land. I don't get why it gets so much hate. If you ask me, it's probably like those kind of people who like can't stand stage hazards. They have to fight on Final Destination, no items. So, you know, the cowardly players, the ones who try acting like they're the best players, but in real life they're actually really cowardly and too afraid to lose. So, yeah. I kind of hate that, how, like, when some assist trophies fall off a cliff, I hate how they respawn. I kind of, you know, I kind of wish they would, like, when they disappear, I wish they would disappear instead of constantly respawning, because it kind of ruins the purpose of how, like, I remember it was kind of interesting how, you know, Sakurai confirmed how in this game, if you knock out, well, you can knock out more assist trophies, and when you do, you get, like, a point for it, and, so, in this game, feels kind of like a knockout to tease the players that you can do that, only to find out that the assist trophies won't die from regular knockouts, and it's really stupid with that way. I don't know. I mean, it's bad enough that there are some assist trophies like the Black Knight who are harder to take out, but then the fact that even if you knock them off screen, it won't necessarily guarantee that they're dead. They seem to be more based off like an HP system instead of like a damage point system, like the regular gameplay does. It doesn't help that the game doesn't bother giving you a good hint on like which assist trophies can be knocked out and which can't. So like for the Nintendog, I can understand why they don't want you to knock that one out. It's a pretty harmless assist trophy, and that would be pretty cruel to. It's one thing to kick around the Nintendog because he's a more cartoony dog, so it doesn't look as harmful as like attacking a realistic dog. And two, that dog had it coming after all the torture he's put Duck Hunt players through. So yeah, Nintendog, I can understand like why that's one you can't attack, but then why can Starfy be attacked? He's a pretty harmless looking character for the most part. How come you can attack the assist trophies, but you can't attack the Pokemon, for instance? You know, it's weird how Super Smash Bros. Seems to have, like, some kind of rules, but doesn't properly establish why some work over the other, and that's kind of unfortunate. Now, this is a stage called Eat Your Peas, based off of a scene from the Powerpuff Girls. The original one, the good one. I always felt mixed about this scene. I mean, I kind of thought it was funny, but I thought it went on for too long, and that's kind of one thing I noticed with, like, the Powerpuff Girls. Like, a lot of people have tried praising the original as like a really good show, and I do like the original, but there were a lot of things about it that kind of bugged me, and I thought the show had a lot of scenes where they just dragged on and went nowhere. Like, some people think that kind of suspense is funny, but to me, I think it's really boring. Now, I'm more tolerable of scenes like that in, like, a Studio Ghibli film, where not much is happening, because those movies are supposed to be atmospheric. I mean, anytime there's, like, a quiet moment, it's usually right after, like, a real serious scene, and so it allows the audience to absorb, like, what just happened. And, you know, a lot of those scenes can be emotional because of that. But with Powerpuff Girls, a show that was mostly trying to be silly, a lot of these, like filler scenes that just dragged on and had nothing happening, or kept looping, like, the same animation over and over, I thought those scenes were kind of annoying. But, but yeah, I did think the look of the stage is pretty funny. It's, I don't recall him having 2 forks in this scene, though, but okay. I'm surprised they didn't animate the cheek. I thought like they would have gave it like a rotate effect to make it look like he was chewing, but still a pretty decent stage though. Now, one thing that I find to be a total crime is, okay, so how did such an underrated movie like the Powerpuff Girls do so terribly in theaters, yet a movie like Teen Titans Go to the Movies actually reviewed well? I think it should have been the other way around. Powerpuff Girls should have been the movie that was a success, and Teen Titans should have been the one that flopped terribly. Ugh. I really do like the Powerpuff Girls movie. Some people didn't like the dark turn it took, despite being an origin story. I loved it. Honestly, I wish that was how the main show was. I thought the movie did a good job at, you know, still having the humor that it was known for, but somehow making it more serious. And I liked that approach. You just don't see enough movies like that anymore. It's too bad that people don't seem to want movies like that, because I really love those kind of movies where it looks like there was some kind of thought put into it. It's more than just a cash grab movie based off a popular series. So yeah, I noticed Nintendo just released a new update for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and there's 2 new features they added. One is virtual reality support for those who have the virtual reality Labo kit, but unfortunately I'm probably going to have to skip out on that because I heard, you know, from a VR experience, Nintendo's isn't too great. I heard it was very uncomfortable and very limited, and I already thought the Super Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild VR support sounded very underwhelming, and after I heard what people's thoughts of it were, yeah, it didn't give me a reason to want to go out and buy the headset. That and, you know, when I heard Nintendo was going to get into VR for Switch, I wanted an actual VR kit, one that was actually made well, not a little cardboard gimmick that runs worse than PlayStation VR. I mean, PlayStation VR alone gave me, made me kind of nauseous. I mean, I like using it to watch my 3D Blu-rays, but when it comes to playing, like, video games, I think PlayStation VR has quite a long way to go. I couldn't even get past the opening of Skyrim VR. I got sick right when the dragon appeared. It's a shame, too, because VR is really interesting, but it's just so pixelated. And so I can imagine if PlayStation VR doesn't work well, then there's no way that Switch VR would work well. I do think, though, like, when comparing the VR support, it looks like Super Smash Bros. Does have the better VR support, because unlike Zelda, where you can only pull it out in still frame areas, or like Mario Odyssey, where it's just used for like some really stupid mini games that you can barely see because the camera's so zoomed out. At least this one, it actually gives you like you know, like a certain look at like the stages from different perspectives, and it allows you to observe CPU players fighting, and not like scripted fights either, actual random CPU battles. And so, you know, that's pretty fun, at least. The problem is that from what I've seen, the camera's still pretty zoomed out, but at least there's more to look at. But it looks like for that you're going to be more interested in looking at like the environments, or I can imagine some of the assist trophies might look pretty cool in VR though. Like I wonder how like the Nintendo would look like. It'd probably look more adorable in VR, but if not more nauseating. But before I go on to the other feature, I just want to say, yeah, I thought this stage was pretty funny. If I had one. I used to love the Fairly Odd Parents, but lately, you know, I'm just glad the show's finally put out of its misery, and I pretty much lost all respect I used to have for Butch Hartman. I used to, you know, think that man was a great artist, but after, like, the controversy he went through last year, well, you know, I just started thinking he was getting too smug and kind of obnoxious with, like, his YouTube channel. You know, like, I thought he was just sounding very egotistical, and, he seemed like he was desperate to try to, like, you know, be hip with, like, younger generations, despite the fact he knew nothing of what he was talking about. And I just don't like it when people have to fake liking something to try to get attention. And so, as if that were bad enough, then there was just a lot more controversy. And the last thing, you know, the last straw that he broke was when he had, like, that interview with Tara Strong. And he made like, that really controversial comment on, like, the original voice of Timmy Turner. He pretty much made a joke at her expense, despite, you know, like, the tragic life she had, and I thought that was very distasteful. I lost all respect for Butch Hartman after that. Despite that, though, I still have some fond memories of the old episodes of Fairly Odd Parents. You know, I'd say, like, the last episode I really enjoyed from that series was Channel Chasers. I thought, you know, that should have been the finale to the series, but, yeah. But anyways, I still thought this stage looked pretty funny. It was from one of the good episodes, Season 1. So, the other feature Super Smash Bros. Release is one I actually was able to try out, and I thought it was a real pointless feature. So, they now added the Amiibo Quest thing, where now in the Amiibo menu, you can send off your Amiibo to fight off CPU members. Well, not CPU, actual Amiibos that others have sent online to fight. And it was really pointless. I am not kidding. They tried making it sound like, oh, this was a good way to level up your Amiibo, get some rewards. But considering how I'm a guy who's already collected everything in the game, I mean, the collectibles are really not that hard to get. The spirits, and so this feature seemed even more pointless. But even if I didn't have everything, I realized that, you know, unlocking stuff with Amiibos is not the way to go in this game. You're better off unlocking stuff through either spirit battles or just, you know, playing through the spirits mode, and, you know, it's like if you beat it, start over. I mean, that you know, leveling up your spirits, the best way to do it is just, you know, keep playing through classic mode, spirit mode, all these different modes to, you know, get, like, money or, little items to upgrade your spirit. So, you know, Amiibo battles were already pretty underwhelming. You really didn't get much for leveling up your Amiibos. It really isn't rewarding. And that's one thing that really bugs me. I think that, you know, the Amiibos really are a waste of money. They're cool collectibles, but they are not worth getting for game features. They're just good for having as decorations around your house. But so far, you know, I'm kind of glad that Nintendo's dying off on the Amiibo functionality lately. That being said, though, I am sad to see that Mario Maker 2 is going to ditch the Amiibo functionality. Because I thought Mario Maker did the best at having functionality of Amiibos. I loved using, like, the costumes of the other characters. I mean, I thought it was so fun to play as, like, an 8-bit Sonic in, you know, Mario Bros. 1 art style, or Mega Man, or some of the obscure crossovers they did were pretty unbelievable, too. But so I was looking forward to seeing more of that, but unfortunately that's not going to be the case. So hopefully they'll do it better and just have us have access to those costumes without the Amiibos. I mean, maybe that's what they're going for. I doubt it, though. Because, I mean, not even the 3DS version had those costumes. But, so, back to Smash Brothers. They added a new feature for, you know, just random battles of Amiibos online, and it's really boring. It's just like spectator mode, except with brain-dead Amiibos. I mean, you're better off just watching CPUs fight, because that's, you know, it's more entertaining to watch actual people who you know are actually, you know, using their brains or trying to, playing a game, compared to a computer that's programmed to play the game. And, you know, it's always more fun to watch humans play than CPUs play. And so, yeah, it really is unfortunate that, you know, they tried adding a new feature through an update. They tried, you know, mentioning, oh, you got this new feature, and it just feels so pointless. It's not like Stage Builder where it felt like that, you know, if you could tell that some people were going to find enjoyment out of Stage Builder. I don't see how anyone can find enjoyment with this Amiibo quest mode. It is really stupid. I mean, they didn't even do anything to spice it up either. I mean, at least like the, you know, you can send like the spirits on a little quest, and although it's not much, at least they tried doing something, you know. You have like the little thing where it shows them like hopping along the background, and it's so, you know, you're able to laugh at it because of how cheesy it looks. So here you don't really get that. You don't see like a figure of the characters butting heads against each other, or, you know, hopping alongside like a background. You don't see anything silly like that. So it's just, you know, you're just waiting for the match to get over. And that's the thing, you don't spectate the match as it goes. It forces you to wait for the match to get over before you actually get a chance to watch it. I don't get what the point of that is. So it's like, I remember, because I had like a Palutena amiibo, and so I tried her out on the quest mode, and so, you know, it then said, waiting for an opponent to challenge, and eventually it found someone, and then it just showed like a long screen saying, Amiibo is fighting another Amiibo. And then after that, a little message popped up telling me press A to watch fight. And then I did it, and then it showed the whole fight that I had to wait on that loading screen for. And then it determines who the winner is. That's so stupid. I mean, wouldn't it make more sense for... Why do you have to wait for the match to get over with before you get a chance to watch it? No, it's not a loading screen. It words it like they're already fighting, and then it tells you fight's over, and it forces you to watch it before you can continue to the next round. In the Amiibo quest mode, you're forced to fight 3 different rounds before they determine the results and they give you your rewards. And it's really underwhelming. You really don't get much. I mean, after all that I went through, my Palutena amiibo only went up 1 level. She only got like 100 coins, 1 little boost item, and that's about it. It's like, really? I sat through all that for this crap? You get more rewarded just for fighting a regular battle with an amiibo partner or opponent in like the Battle Royale mode. The free-for-all mode or team battle mode. So what was the point of this feature? It's just a waste of time. So yeah, don't bother with this new amiibo mode. Just skip out on it. It's about as much fun as watching snails racing. So, I believe someone on YouTube actually recommended this stage. I apologize, I can't remember their name, but, they told me to look up, a stage of Destiny Islands from Kingdom Hearts. And, if I'm not mistaken, that person was the one who made it, but, I apologize, I don't remember your name, but, anyways, you know, I looked up the stages you requested, and, I thought they were decent. So, you know, he recommended... I'm not sure, but, they recommended, you know, I look up the stages they made. One of them was Destiny Islands, the other was, the Twilight Town, Station Tower from Kingdom Hearts 2, and so here's Destiny Islands, the first level in Kingdom Hearts. Almost looks like a cross between Kingdom Hearts and Minecraft. I do think it looks nice, though. They did a decent job at recreating it with the limitations that Stage Builder gives you. So here we have the Paopu fruit tree, the bridge, the ocean in the background, the little hut on the side. Yeah, just as I remember it. That was so disappointing, though. In Kingdom Hearts 3, I was really looking forward to revisiting Destiny Islands. So, it really is funny how, in a way, Kingdom Hearts did a really clever job at making the players feel as homesick from Destiny Islands as Sora was, in a way. Because when you first try out Destiny Islands in Kingdom Hearts, at first it's really fun, but eventually you get sick of it because of all the fetch quests you have to do. they drag on, they don't give you a very good hint. So I remember, like, when I was at that moment, I was ready to leave that island. I was as ready as Sora to leave that island. And then eventually, it comes to a point where you're forced into the other levels, and you realize there's no going back to Destiny Islands. And it makes you realize, I miss Destiny Islands. I want to go back there now. Without having to start a new game file. And, so ever since, I've been hoping for another Kingdom Hearts game that allowed you to revisit Destiny Islands in an expanded form, and although it did return in the form of Chain of Memories and even Kingdom Hearts Recoded, it was still pretty underwhelming though, because it just, you know, it wasn't really an expansion of the original. It mostly was just recycled assets from the original. So in Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, like the remake version at least, it mostly was just a labyrinth, like, nightmare version of Destiny Islands. So, you know, it's like, it was an illusion, basically. It wasn't the real thing. But then in Coded, it was just a dumbed-down version of it, fitted for the DS. So I thought, you know, with how far the graphics have come since, with Kingdom Hearts 3's release, it's like, oh, I was so looking forward to seeing this in HD, possibly expanded upon, because one thing I loved about Kingdom Hearts 2 is, although we didn't get to visit Destiny Islands, I loved how they teased at how much bigger the islands really are, because, like, the first scene where we see Kairi, in the game, it shows how, like, she's walking home from school, and so we see new areas of Destiny Islands we never got to see before. And so, I mean, it is called Destiny Islands, after all, not Destiny Island. And so, I was really looking forward to, especially in Kingdom Hearts 3, when you go to the Pirates of the Caribbean level and it allowed you to travel across different islands. I was hoping that was, like, foreshadowing what a return to Destiny Islands would have been like. What if we were able to row or, you know, travel to the other islands, see what else there is to see? And darn it, Destiny Islands only returned for cutscene purposes in Kingdom Hearts 3, and although it did look a lot more gorgeous with the HD visuals, it still wasn't the same as actually being able to control Sora again, walking along the beach, climbing the trees and all that, and I really want to see that return. I mean, especially if all the new abilities Sora can do. I mean, all the parkour and, you know, faster-paced action, it would have been really cool. That maybe add some Heartless here and there, add some actual threats to Destiny Island this time. Give it kind of like a feeling that they need to protect their home or something. That would have been kind of cool, but yeah, Kingdom Hearts 3, I liked the game, but it did have a lot of underwhelming shortcomings. Especially after how long we had to wait for it. So here we have a stage based off of the Green Chew from The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. Now, that's one thing I always liked about, like, the Chews in the Zelda games. It's like they always have, like, some kind of different art style or appearance in each game. I believe, like, I'm not sure if they ever originated in, like, the original 2D Zelda games, but the first one I remember them from was Majora's Mask. The funny thing is, I didn't even realize they were Chews at the time until, you know, like, I saw, like, other videos and people point out how those were the Chews. It's like, oh, those are Chews? Huh. But, so, other than that, I was mostly familiar with, like, the ones from, Wind Waker and, Twilight Princess. So, Wind Waker, they had, like, the cartoony-looking design like this. They almost look like, the slime things from, like, the Dragon Quest series. So then, I remember in Twilight Princess, they gave him it's funny how they technically gave him a simpler design, but they somehow made them creepy. So, in Twilight Princess, they were nothing but, like, lifeless slime creatures. They had no faces. It was like, it's like, imagine if Flubber was a horror movie. You're just being attacked by a bunch of lifeless goo. No face. They're just dripping from the ceilings and starting to chase after you, lunge at you, and, I kind of liked that, though. It's funny how Zelda, they usually do a good job at taking simple designs, but somehow making them menacing. I mean, that's one thing I really loved about Skyward Sword. It had some of the most laughable-looking boss designs, but their boss fights and music that surrounded it were actually really good. Because I remember, in the fire level, when you saw the boss fight, it was basically just a giant rock with spider legs. I thought it was so laughably bad, but then the music kicks in, you see, like, the monster starting to chase you, and it's, like, you know, making all this, like, angry noises, and then I'm like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, and I start running for my life, you know, and it's funny how a game can do that. you know, it can actually make it, you know, just like a few changes in music and tone can suddenly, you know, change everything in a game. And I mean, I even liked how they were even able to do it with the Kraken boss fight, because I remember, like, you know, that was one of my favorite parts of Twilight, I mean, Skyward Sword, the part where you were on, like, that haunted ghost ship that was in the middle of a desert that was, like trapped in a different timeline. The only way to get there was to take that boat that had like that little stone that allowed you to go into the past. I mean, that part was visually really creative. There's something really cool about sailing across a desert and seeing like the contrast of how in the past it used to be an ocean, but now it's a desert, and that was like really visually cool. And so it's like, as if that wasn't cool enough, then the temple or the dungeon that lied ahead was a giant ghost ship, and that was also really creative. And then when it came closer to the boss fight, you just saw all these tentacles bursting out of the ship, and it gave you an idea that something big was coming, and then it almost killed the hype when the monster actually shows up, and it's just like this really goofy looking Cyclops with like these dreadlock tentacles, and he looked really silly, but even then the boss fight was still really fun and atmospheric. I mean, it was, you know, although the boss looked really silly, he was still pretty menacing. You know, his attacks were pretty, you know, you had to dodge them pretty well, and it was really fun to just cut off all his tentacles. And yeah, like, I don't care what people say, I think Skyward Sword was a great game. Honestly, that's one of my favorite Zelda games. I wish I could say I'd want to see a remaster of it for Switch, but Switch's motion controls are terrible, so I don't see them doing any justice for Skyward Sword. I mean, people already complained about the motion controls in that game. I thought they worked fine. People just didn't calibrate them properly or have the right distance between their TV and motion sensor or something. I don't know, but for me it always worked fine. You do have to be patient with it, though. You gotta try to be more precise with your cuts. I mean, that game is definitely not for impatient people, that's for sure. But for me, you know, it's like, as a kid, I always wanted to see a Zelda game where you actually felt like you were slicing with your hand, and that's exactly what Skyward Sword did. And I thought for what it did a really good job. I mean, there's something, you know, there's something really funny about just messing around with the game, just taking the time to goof off, just wave your arm around, see Link look like an idiot with his arm flailing around it. There's just something so funny about that. And I loved like the physics in the game too, like how certain things would cut up depending on the angle or force you sliced it with, and I kind of wish more games had that. I'm not saying they need motion controls, but I'd love to see them have like those kind of destruction physics. So here's a stage based off of Rainbow Road from Mario Kart. I'm surprised that stage didn't make a return in this. That was one of the 3DS stages I really liked, but so for custom stage, this looks pretty good from a distance at least. Like from this angle, it looks pretty good, but and then there are certain times when the camera zooms in and it kind of ruins the perspective, but yeah, like this must not have been an easy stage to make though, so good job to whoever made this. You did a really good job. It's been really hard to draw all these lines and give it this kind of perspective. So everyone has like a certain favorite Mario Kart. So for me, my favorite was always the one from N64. And although it did make a return in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, or Mario Kart 8 in general, I did not really like the remake very much. I hated how they gave it like the disco panel looking floor. I liked the original where it just had like the striped rainbow road. It was just so much more colorful, and I miss like the little light up portraits of the characters that shined in the skies. They got rid of those in the remake, unfortunately, and I also love the music of the original. Now, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has really good music, and I love, for the most part, I love the live orchestra, but that was a song that sounds worse with an orchestra. I kind of wish it used more of that, kind of like that digital synthesized music it used for the original. It just gave it such like a dreamlike quality, which was really suitable for the kind of stage it was. And I also thought Toad's Turnpike sounded a lot better with like the digital sounding music, but for the most part, a lot of the, you know, I still think a lot of the orchestrated music sounds really great. I love the title screen music. Let's see, I'm trying to think like what other tracks. The Ocean track, I thought that was really good. Toad Harbor, that sounded pretty good as well. Yeah, like, I really do love the music of Mario Kart 8, but I thought for some of the remade tracks, they could have been a lot better. I'm kind of sad to see we didn't get any additional DLC for Mario Kart Deluxe, because that was like the only game, well, one of the only few games I bothered rebuying, because I had a lot of these games on Wii U before they, poured them over to Switch. And Mario Kart was the only exception for me, though, because, I was getting kind of sick of looking at Mario Kart 7 on the 3DS. I mean, I liked that game, but I was getting sick of how limited the graphics looked. I kept going back to Mario Kart 8 on Wii U because the graphics looked so much better. And so when I saw I would finally be able to play a Mario Kart game with better graphics in a handheld form, I thought, Mario Kart 8 wasn't that hard to play through. It won't, I won't mind having to go through unlocking all that stuff again. And at least this one has some exclusive content too. I mean, you can't really say any of the other Switch ports made me want to rebuy the same game again. The only exception being Bayonetta 1 and 2, though, because I barely played through those games on the original Wii U anyways, so, and I thought, being able to play it on Switch would be pretty convenient, and so, yeah, it was a good deal, too, because you got 2 games for a pretty decent price. So, I went through with buying Bayonetta 1 and 2, and, yeah, I didn't regret buying that either. But, so, games like Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze or Pokken Tournament Deluxe, I really did not see any reason into wanting to rebuy those games, especially with how difficult they were at times. Well, not Pokken, but Donkey Kong Country at least. I thought that game was kind of difficult, and so I didn't want to go through all that again. So, even if you did have Funky Kong as a playable character, I didn't really think I was worth paying full price for again. And then they also re-released Rayman Legends. That was a pretty hard game, too. I unlocked everything on the Wii U version, so I have no reason to want to rebuy that either. But, well, that's all I have to show for now. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Goodbye.